Hello everyone and welcome to Old Coins TV channel. If you love exploring the world of coins, their history, value, and rare discoveries, you've come to the right place. Here, we'll share exciting information about coins from around the world, from ancient treasures to modern currency. So, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the bell icon to never miss our latest videos.
In 1776, the year that marks the Declaration of Independence, America was still in its infancy as a nation, emerging from colonial rule. At this time, the Continental Congress issued the Continental currency as a means to finance the Revolutionary War, though this currency quickly fell into disrepute due to rampant inflation and lack of backing, leading to the phrase, "not worth a continental." By the time the U.S. Constitution was ratified in 1787, the nation began to move towards a more stable and organized monetary system, culminating in the Coinage Act of 1792, which established the U.S. dollar as the standard unit of money and set the framework for a decimal-based currency system. The early 19th century saw the rise of banks and the introduction of banknotes, which complicated the concept of the dollar as a tangible entity, creating both opportunities and challenges in banking and financial sectors. The impact of the gold rush in the mid-1800s further influenced the value of the dollar as it became tied to the gold standard, significantly affecting its purchasing power and instigating financial fluctuations, particularly with the expansion and development of the western frontier. The Civil War introduced new dilemmas, as the government suspended gold convertibility and issued greenbacks to fund the war effort, leading to subsequent financial instability post-war, where inflation and deflation cycles created challenges for both consumers and businesses. By the turn of the 20th century, the Federal Reserve was established in 1913 to stabilize the banking system, responding to the severe financial panics that characterized the previous decades. Throughout the 20th century, particularly in the aftermath of the Great Depression and World War II, the dollar transformed from a gold-backed currency to a fiat currency, signaling a significant shift in economic policy and global finance. The dollar became the world's primary reserve currency after the Bretton Woods Agreement in 1944, reflecting the U.S.'s unparalleled economic power and influence. By 1976, the United States celebrated its bicentennial, a landmark year that represented not only 200 years of independence but also a period of questioning and redefining the nation's values, identity, and economic systems. This year was pivotal as it marked the height of the post-war economic expansion, even as challenges like inflation and oil crises began to loom, foreshadowing shifts in the later decades. The dollar, which had undergone significant changes in design and material, shifting from silver certificates to paper notes devoid of metal backing, reflected more than mere currency. It symbolized confidence in the government, the economy, and the nation's trajectory. Exhaustive historical examination reveals that the dollar has been both a powerful economic tool and a symbol of American ideals, as it endured wars, economic upheavals, and social transformations over these 2 centuries. From its musings as a fledgling currency in a nascent nation to its status as a global financial powerhouse, the narrative of the dollar from 1776 to 1976 is, in essence, a narrative of the United States itself, a tale of resilience, innovation, and evolving aspirations that continues to influence how we understand money and its implications in our daily lives and the broader world. Building upon the historical evolution of the dollar from its inception in 1776 to the bicentennial celebrations in 1976, it is essential to appreciate the socio-political contexts that influenced its transformation and the debates it incited regarding national identity, economic policy, and fiscal stability. The tumult of the Revolutionary War and the chaotic financial landscape in which the Continental Congress operated highlighted the urgent need for a reliable currency system. The proliferation of state-issued notes and the challenges of intermittent currency values culminated in a crucial debate about the role of government in regulating money. Entering the 19th century, the burgeoning industrialization and westward expansion of the United States saw a need for a more cohesive monetary policy. As railroads, telegraphs, and new communication technologies emerged, the nation grappled with how to integrate these innovations into its economic framework. The tension between state and federal roles in currency issuance became more pronounced, leading to the formation of the First Bank of the United States in 1791, which sought to stabilize the national economy but faced intense opposition from those fearing federal overreach. The subsequent establishment of the Second Bank of the United States in 1816 further fueled disputes regarding centralized banking powers versus state sovereignty, ultimately resulting in its demise in 1836, which deepened the economic divide and led to a proliferation of free banking during the 1830s and 1840s. As the United States moved closer to the Civil War in the 1860s, the necessity of a stable currency became critical once again. The issuance of greenbacks as legal tender, essentially fiat money, during this tumultuous period ignited debates about the very nature of money and its relationship with underlying value. The introduction of greenbacks aimed to fund the Union war effort and prevented the financial system from collapsing during a time of significant national strife. However, the post-war period was marked by economic panic and bouts of inflation, leading to substantial social and economic unrest, including the rise of populism and farmer movements, advocating for silver to be a part of the monetary base to counterbalance the perceived elitism of a gold standard. The economic transformations brought about by the Industrial Revolution, coupled with the challenges posed by Reconstruction, fundamentally altered the relationship between American citizens and their government regarding financial control and regulations. By the end of the 19th century, the creation of the Federal Reserve System in 1913 represented a critical turning point in American economic history, establishing a more formalized mechanism for monetary policy that promised to mitigate the cycles of boom and bust that had characterized previous decades. As we shift our lens to the 20th century, the 1929 stock market crash and the subsequent Great Depression underscored the frailties of a largely unregulated banking environment. This major economic crisis compelled a seismic shift in the U.S. government's approach to economic intervention, introducing a range of New Deal policies designed to restore confidence in the financial system and stabilize the economy. The establishment of the FDIC, Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, was intended to protect depositors and preserve the banking structure, which fortified public trust in the dollar as a stable medium of exchange. World War II further transformed the American economy, as military production thrust the U.S. into an unprecedented economic boom, securing the U.S. dollar's position as the world's primary reserve currency during the Bretton Woods Conference in 1944, which sought to create a new international monetary order focused on stability and growth. However, the ensuing decades brought about challenges. The labor movements of the 1960s and 70s, coupled with sudden economic shifts including oil crises and inflation, caused friction between growing societal needs and the government's monetary policies. By 1976, as the United States celebrated its 200 years of independence, this narrative of the dollar became intricately tied not just to national economic health but to an evolving sense of American identity, particularly as the idea of the American dream came under scrutiny. The bicentennial sparked a wave of introspection about what it meant to be an American, with currency representing both a symbol of economic success and a motif of struggle for equity and fairness. As inflation began to erode the purchasing power of the dollar, questions arose about the efficacy of the country's monetary policies and the need for a reassessment of fiscal responsibilities. The 1970s were a turbulent time for the economy, giving rise to concepts like stagflation, where stagnant economic growth coincided with high inflation, challenging long-held assumptions about economic management. The dollar, once celebrated for its strength and prestige, became emblematic of broader anxieties regarding the government's ability to protect the wealth and welfare of its citizenry. This dual legacy of the dollar, both as a monetary tool and a cultural symbol, reflects the intricate interplay of economics, politics, and social identity that has come to define American history, making the journey from 1776 to 1976 a multifaceted exploration of resilience, adaptation, and an ongoing quest for justice and prosperity within the fabric of American life. As we consider the future, the lessons learned from the historical journey of the dollar prompt us to reflect on its potential trajectory and significance in the dynamic landscape of the global economy. Continuing this exploration of the dollar's evolution, it is essential to delve into the ramifications of the policies and economic strategies that molded the American financial landscape from the late 1970s onward. The decade following the bicentennial celebrations was characterized by a variety of economic shocks and transformative shifts, underscoring the complexities of managing a fiat currency in a rapidly changing global landscape. The oil crisis of the early 1970s, which saw OPEC nations dramatically hike oil prices, had a profound impact on inflation rates and overall economic stability in the U.S. This energy crisis not only created inflation but also led to a significant change in American consumer behavior and energy policy, as citizens began to grapple with the realities of dependence on foreign oil and the need for energy conservation. The result was a period of stagflation, a concept that had eluded economists until then, which highlighted the struggle of balancing inflation, unemployment, and economic stagnation. In response, the U.S. government and Federal Reserve introduced a series of measures aimed at combating these effects, including varying interest rate adjustments and a strategic pivot to deregulation in various industries. This environment saw the rise of neoliberal economic policies as influential figures like President Ronald Reagan and economist Milton Friedman advocated for market-oriented reforms, emphasizing reduced government spending, lower taxes, and fewer regulations. This shift not only redefined the role of the government in economic matters but also laid the groundwork for the financialization of the economy, a process that increasingly began to prioritize financial markets and investment over traditional manufacturing and labor. As the 1980s transitioned into the 1990s, the dollar underwent a significant transformation in its role on the global stage, sustained by a combination of factors including technological advancements, globalization, and changes in international trade dynamics. The introduction of electronic banking and digital finance exploded during this time, fundamentally altering how transactions were conducted and how individuals interacted with their personal finances. The rise of the Internet led to increased efficiency and speed in financial transactions, while also paving the way for the emergence of new financial instruments and derivatives, which, while innovative, also contributed to increased volatility and risk in markets. The end of the Cold War and the accompanying geopolitical shifts allowed for the expansion of global trade relationships, further solidifying the dollar's status as the world's dominant reserve currency and fostering deeper economic interdependence. However, this also raised questions about economic equity, especially as globalization facilitated capital flows that often prioritized corporate profits over local economies. Economic disparities began to emerge, highlighted by the emergence of new tech hubs contrasting sharply with regions reliant on traditional industries, exacerbating existing inequalities and prompting discussions about the need for inclusive economic growth that considered broader societal impacts. The late 1990s and early 2000s witnessed the emergence of a significant dot-com bubble, driven by speculation in technology companies and fueled by the allure of rapid wealth generation through the Internet. This culmination of factors underscored a broader cultural shift in the American psyche, where economic success became increasingly tied to investment and speculation rather than consistent labor and production. The ensuing collapse of the dot-com bubble resulted in financial devastation for countless investors and prompted questions regarding the sustainability of a debt-driven economy, particularly as household debt levels soared amidst rising consumerism and an insatiable appetite for credit. In the backdrop of these financial upheavals, the United States also found itself grappling with significant global challenges, including the September 11 attacks in 2001, which led to heightened security concerns and a re-evaluation of fiscal priorities, ultimately shifting government spending toward national security and military endeavors. The response to these challenges through tumultuous wars in the Middle East further placed strains on the federal budget and contradicted previous efforts aimed at balancing the national budget. As we moved into the late 2000s, the fragility of the financial system became alarmingly clear with the onset of the 2008 financial crisis, which remains one of the most significant economic downturns since the Great Depression. This crisis brought to the forefront the vulnerabilities inherent in a financial system that had increasingly operated on a foundation of speculative investment rather than tangible asset backing. The collapse of major financial institutions, the government bailout of key players, and unprecedented levels of intervention by the Federal Reserve demonstrated the necessity of robust regulatory frameworks in preserving financial stability. During this period, discussions surrounding the future of the dollar intensified, particularly as global competitors such as the euro started to present themselves as alternatives for international transactions. The financial crisis compelled a re-evaluation of monetary policy, leading to the implementation of quantitative easing and other unconventional measures aimed at stimulating the economy and restoring confidence in the dollar. However, the long-term consequences of such policies ignited debates about inflation, income inequality, and the sustainability of government debt, raising fundamental questions about the dollar's role in both American society and the global economy moving forward. As we navigate the complexities of the 21st century, the story of the dollar remains intertwined with larger narratives about globalization, technological disruption, and evolving societal values. Growing concerns about climate change, social justice, and equitable economic development are prompting discussions about what a sustainable currency might look like in the future. The rise of digital currencies, including cryptocurrencies and central bank digital currencies (CBDCs), represents a potential paradigm shift in how we conceptualize money and its role in society, introducing new dynamics and challenges regarding regulation, security, and trust. The dollar's journey from 1776 to the present encompasses not just shifts in economic policy or currency design, it reflects a broader human experience, marked by aspirations, struggles, triumphs, and failures that have shaped and will continue to shape the American identity. The interconnected history of the dollar encapsulates narratives of resilience, transformation, and the ongoing quest for a financial system that not only sustains economic growth but also promotes social equity and environmental sustainability in ways that honor the founding principles of the nation while adapting to the complexities of a rapidly evolving world. Understanding this multifaceted journey fosters greater insights into the challenges ahead, equipping us to engage thoughtfully with the future of currency and its lasting impact on our lives.